All right, we are heading into week 15. We're almost done, and as I've been pointing out to the other classes that we all get burned out about this time. Okay, so I understand, but I want you to push through. And what I just want to remind all of you is, once this semester is officially over, I have 48 hours to turn in the grades. So this is what I want to say. If we had a talk already about turning in late work, keep that in mind, okay? And if you're way behind and you want to catch up and you still want to think about your grade and we haven't had an arrangement, you need to call me ASAP. Because, I still have to have time to grade whatever we arrange with, and I don't know how far behind you are necessarily, or how much more work that requires for me to do. So, we just everybody needs to keep in mind that, we're finishing up, and you want to just, really assess what's going on, and don't hit me up 2 days before and try to catch up for lost time. Okay, it happens every semester, so somebody will do it. Whatever. Any case. There were some issues that some had about my grades that I gave on the Birth of the Nation paper. I'm going to re-look those over if you have an issue with that. I just want to say something, though. I know I'd said I'm not, it didn't have to be exactly a page or not, I just said however long. I grade based on you guys demonstrating that you know the content, that you actually watched it, because, it's not, and when I have this class, I could force all of you guys to go through this miserably slow film, and we could have discussions with it after, and that kind of helped. But the point of the film that I wanted you to see, which was in there, which is that it's based off a novel. It's a defense of the KKK, and that shows that in there. And a lot of you didn't really demonstrate to me that you really watched the video as much as I asked you to, and looked at the other ones, and so I didn't grade you that high. But keep in mind as well that if you've already been doing all your work, you probably still have an A. So if you think that you demonstrated in your work that you really did, an outsider can read your whatever you left me and get an idea or a sense of what was in that film, what was highlighted, and some information from those clips, and if you think that you pulled that off fully and it deserves full points, I will fix that for you, okay? But you need to also not worry too much, I also realized it was during Thanksgiving week, and probably a lot of you were burned out, and it is not that exciting to watch. So I'm not upset that people didn't, maybe put in the 100% into it, but just I just don't give out points. And many, I think many maybe feel like I have. Well, because basically you guys have been doing the routine that I've been looking for, okay? And with this one, I just saw a lot of not people putting in their normal effort into that. So that's all. Now, listen, I had you watch it also because it's important, just like this week is very important. The U.S. Civil War. This is when we killed each other over an idea. I mean, you think about the shock from all sides over how many demonstrations and riots were over Donald Trump recently getting elected. Well, the worst example is Abraham Lincoln. The reaction to his election was a lot more extreme, as we will see. And so, this helps explain so many of our also cultural wars. And I just want to point out that when I first started teaching this class, even at the time that I recorded this lecture, I've learned a lot more since even the originally when I did this. Because when the debate over the Confederate flag started happening, I don't think I really realized how many people were still debating that the Civil War was not about slavery, which is why I keep driving this in so much, okay? And before, I thought maybe there was a real debate that one could have on this. I am now of the opinion that if you are a history instructor and you say that the war was not about slavery, you should almost get fired. And I don't say that about a lot of things. The only reason why I say that is that it's really not debatable. I thought it was debatable. I mean, and the reason why I thought it was debatable is I've sat through and watched over an hour lecture by a man with a PhD in economics who's a libertarian trying to make a libertarian argument that it's about tariffs, and he made a strong argument. And I listened to another one make a strong argument, and I thought, well, right, I can see why there's people that have PhDs that would make a case for this. And then I was reading someone who just said, just read what the Confederates were saying themselves. Like, I had you read Alexander Stephens, the vice president of the Confederacy. But you know how we had a Declaration of Independence? Well, the southern states left their own open declarations of independence. They're called declarations of secession. And they said why they're leaving the Union and why they're separating and why they're joining together. And you can read that in the first few sentences. You don't have to read the entire documents. And guess what? Tariff's not there. But just take a look. So I have a link at the bottom of this whole entire set of lectures that you can go to the links of a Civil War trust. And this is in their own words, why they're breaking away from the South. And think about the information that I gave you with that, and tell me if there is an equivalent answer, if it's a debatable answer, or whether or not this war was over anything other than slavery. If you feel after you've watched all these videos and lectures, and you've read these declarations of secession, and you still think that there's an actual good argument for a different case, for some other reason why the Civil War happened, please send it to me, because I do read as many sides as possible. I don't just stick to my ideas. I do give the time, and when I gave the time to this discussion, it actually reinforced this very passionate view in my brain about why this is not a debatable topic. Okay, but again, things always surprise me. Now, having said that, it's not with the idea of defaming the South or the legacy of Southerners. I always want to make that very clear, because look at our whole nation. It's the entire nation that's had issues to resolve, and the Southern institution of slavery was picked up from a global institution with a long history, as they argued. It's not like they were unique to the world per se in developing this. And in our whole relationship with Native Americans, on all sides was consistent, and the racism issue was consistent. Just this one old, peculiar institution that still was passionately on that end wanting to be preserved in the South. Now, then on the topic of Native Americans, I do something that's very different in this class. So I have you watch a documentary on Native American involvement in the U.S. Civil War. And I've really been trying to integrate Native American history more and more into my classes. And now with what we see what's going on in Standing Rock, where many Americans and people in the world it feels to us like we're still back in the 19th century. I had so many students saying, I thought all of this was over. The breaking of treaties that we've had with Native American peoples in their lands, and the idea of using a militarized police force to remove Native Americans when they find a reason to get rid of them, which is usually over natural resources. This has been a theme. And here we are. And it's not being stopped by Obama, the Democratic Party. This is not a conservative thing. And in our history, treatment of the Native Americans has not changed under which party, liberals or conservatives or anything. And so, I don't know. Now, some might feel that there's another argument to be made there. All sides have two different sides of the story, right? And so, but I'm pointing out that as a culture, and the world watching what's going on in Standing Rock, this question about have we really got over the past, and it's a question. It's a big topic now, right? Like the issue of racism in America and where everybody's at on that. So we have still our unresolvable issues, and it makes sense that we haven't resolved them because this is all so recent. And that's the thing that I want to keep emphasizing to all of us. Some people, I think, really feel like, I've been hard on the United States, like when I teach this class. Well, look, we are, like I keep emphasizing, we are a new nation. I have pictures of relatives here. It's one in the military, and some other here in the black and whites that, they knew people alive at the time, many people that were a part of the Civil War. Probably many of us as white Americans that have a settler, that have a long history rooted here, had relatives participating in it. And so, yeah, it's not resolved yet. Okay? I think I said this in one of my other video announcements, but when I was in high school, that the last Civil War bride died. This very old lady who was married, which was very young, married to a very old Confederate general, while I was still in high school. So this is all very recent. So no wonder there's so many things we haven't resolved. Okay, and so we should be hard on ourselves in a constructive way, not just beating ourselves up or giving ourselves passes, but just realizing like these, and I'm hoping that you're seeing as we're coming to an end of this class that Americans have always been having really serious debates about all these topics. You're living the process now. And I hope that this is making you feel more invested in your country, more interested in really paying attention to where you're at and your, the place that this flag flies, as opposed to just becoming so cynical and throwing your hands in the air. Every part of the world has its own problems, and I think it's good that we work as best we can to just resolve this here. And by you having these history classes, by you paying attention and working as hard as you have, you are becoming a better informed citizen, and you are in a better position to bring to the table real discussions about what's going on that are more constructive instead of phony history, where we're not even getting the debate about what happened right. So how could we even then debate about what our ethical positions should be if we can't even agree on what took place, right? So that's it for now. All I gotta say, have a great week. Always contact me if you need anything.